Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Unfiltered Vet Discussions. My name is Kelly, and I'm with Phil today. I also have my pup Winnie on the desk in case you see her pop up. You might see her little head joining us today. We are on unfilteredvetdiscussions.com and also on all the major platforms. If you haven't come and liked us or shared us yet, please do. Social media as well. Just round out the whole bucket there. Just come. Today it's just Phil and I, and
Mhm.
we want to kind of talk about taking care of ourselves and taking care of you. So more not like we're going to help you take care of yourselves. It's more like how does everybody personally give themselves permission to take care of themselves? And that's not always an easy lift. So, Phil, we kind of started on this
Yeah,
because we both started saying, well, how are you today? Just like we normally do when you meet
right.
people. And instead of saying fine, which is the standard response because nobody wants to lift the hood and get underneath of, well, maybe
Yeah,
it's not fine. We know each other well enough. We're like, yeah, so, right?
yeah,
So take it from here, Phil.
yeah. And yeah, thanks, Kelly. And thanks for being a good friend and being supportive and sharing space with me here. But it's one of those things we all have these chapters and moments in our life where things get heavy and just happens to be for me like I'm walking through that with a number of things going on. And I have to say too, what was interesting is when I was at VMX, it just felt like a lot of my friends and colleagues just felt heavy.
Yeah.
It's just heavier than normal for than maybe 10 years ago or something, just
Yeah.
throwing a number out there. Like everybody just has kind of some weight on their shoulders. And for me, what happened, I ended up I did powerlifting, since I was, in my teens. And so my body is now, catching up with that. So I've got a early date for a hip replacement. It's just in, God bless. I was in, just really excruciating pain, which kind of freaked me out because I've just kind of gotten through it. But it was like debilitating pain in January. And then my mom got diagnosed with terminal cancer, and so we just got her into hospice a few weeks ago and going through that process. And then the and not that this is like Festivus and a litany of things, but just
Right.
looking at the things that are going on. And then the Sunday, so I was in Orlando, my siblings were there. The Sunday before we were going to talk to my mom about stopping treatment and going into hospice, it was like the heavy conversation. And that morning I had driven to Orlando. I had a hotel room. The kids were with me, but they were at the hotel. Went to the gym there like I do. One of my gyms is there, and I tore my bicep off the bone that Sunday morning. And I was just I sat in my car, and my wife was going through a lot of things. And then our beloved cockatoo Marty, who has been on this show. He unfortunately he got really sick. He passed away Wednesday, last 1 week ago, Wednesday. And so we just had all these things. And my father-in-law is very, and again, I don't mean it to be a litany, but it's like each one of those things can be heavy. And I was in my car in the gym parking lot. And I had reached my point of breaking.
Right. Yeah.
With my biceps rolled up. We're supposed to go have this conversation with my mom. All these other things are going on. And um, I just gave myself some grace and said, there's a concept of self-compassion. And it's like, what would, if I was my best friend, what would I say to me? And that's one of the reasons why I list those things, is like it allows me to say, if I was my best friend, if I was talking to my best friend and my best friend was going through all these things, how would I choose to treat him or her? And so it allowed me to have some grace that, hey, I'm going through a lot, and maybe it's okay if I don't get all these things done. And when those big things happen, it really focuses the beam because we don't have the capacity to
Mm-mm.
deal. You find out what's important pretty damn quick.
You
Um,
do.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, does the pool, you miss putting the chemical, down here in Florida, like, oh, I didn't put the chemicals in the pool, or whatever piddly shit, is going on, just falls off. It's like, all right, I don't have the capacity for that right now.
Hmm.
And so that's where I was. And I'm just very grateful for the friends and the community that I have. And I let people know, not in a I just kind of let people know where I was at, and just letting them know I'm getting through this. But like, if you don't hear from me, I'm normally, I'm somebody who's like on the phone, all day
Right.
long, texting everybody. And I've just really kind of not, I don't want to say shut down, but I've narrowed the beam to like staying with the family, like staying at home, like, using my energy, to do those things. And it's not that I'm not obviously not thinking about my friends and colleagues and things like that. But I think everybody understands, like, when you're through that, like, it's, it's just taken some time. And so I did talk to, very grateful too, to have some dear friends who are mental health professionals, and was able to lean into them. And so it's just one of those things. And I was able to also thin my schedule down and say, okay, kind of Marie Kondo, what are the things that bring me joy? What are the things that absolutely have to be done? And then what things can I, put on the back burner? And I'd already kind of started stepping away from, at least, for the at least for now, like stepping away from speaking, and trying to fly to different conferences, and doing a lot of work around the country, and just staying at home, working. I went back working full time as a veterinarian. Not that that's not stressful, but I generally home every night. you
Great.
know um
Yeah. Your own
so
bed has a lot of value.
yeah, yeah, right. So it's just that. And then, my wife, God bless her, she's a full-time veterinarian, and she's been going through a lot of things. And it's just, we're we'll have a conversation with one another, and it's like, I know you're going through a lot. And it's like, right right now, and just like literally minute by minute, it's like, right now I'm okay. Like, what can I do for you? Like, I've got capacity for this right now. How can I help you? And just kind of giving each other grace, with that, and trying to be there for the kids, and all those types of things. So it does, thank goodness it doesn't, it hasn't happened very often, in my life, that I felt, that overwhelm. But I remember, one of the when it comes to resilience and walking through things, like, asking for help is one of the most important things. And I've done that of my friends, and and asked that of, people that I work with and things like that. And they've been kind enough to, show me that grace while, I'm going through this. And, God willing, those things will be done. I'll be, surgery will be finished, I'll be healed up in another couple months, and then I'll get my hip replacement. We were joking. I said, looking at the bright side, I'll meet my deductible this year for sure. So, so that's good.
That's good. There's always a
Yeah,
bright
that's good.
side.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, in I've certainly had my share of moments like you, right? We don't,
yeah, yeah.
thankfully, all of us humans go through it all at the same time.
Right. We
So,
all, yep,
we're on different schedules, so we can be there. But,
yeah,
a couple of things when you do find out what's true and what's really important in your life
yeah,
quickly, right?
yeah,
Typically, it comes out of the blue. You don't see it, the drain
right,
that hits you on the tracks
yeah,
until you're like, wow, what was that? That just walloped the crap out of me. And three, when I've gone through, some things, like I remember two times in my life, when my husband walked out with severe mental health issues with
mm,
depression.
yeah,
He just said, I can't handle the dogs and the kids anymore. I need to go
yeah,
someplace where it's quiet. I'm like, okay. And then his suicide,
yeah,
a few years
yeah,
later. I boiled down to three priorities. What are my three priorities?
Mm,
So that I could focus, and it was
yeah,
my daughter, number one, always.
yeah,
Running my businesses to support my daughter.
right,
And then I was number three on the list to support my daughter,
yeah,
who was number one. And I had people who came up who had opinions, especially during the divorce, of what I should be doing. And I'm like, these are my three priorities. And
yeah,
your suggestion, I understand where you're coming from. It's not one of these three priorities,
yeah,
And then they would say to me, well, what if I did what I wanted you to do? Like I wanted, my parents wanted to hire a moving company to move his stuff out of the house to his house. I said, that's fine, but you take care of it. You do it. You manage it. It's
yeah,
these three priorities, right?
right,
But I had to let them do that. I had to go, yes, that would be, I'm grateful. Thank you. Um,
yeah,
but I'm not doing it myself right now.
right, right. And that's such a, it's such a effective, simple but not easy, but such
Right.
an effective tool. And and I think about it where, my dear friend Jules Benson, he was kind enough, um, last year to sit down with me and do strategic planning for my consulting practice. And it was kind of the same thing. He's like, we all these things that I was doing and this and that. And he's like, okay, here are your goals. And if what you're doing isn't feeding into those goals, then you say no. And and from a business perspective, it's like, oh, like I didn't know, sometimes like, oh, I didn't know I could do that. Like I thought I had, I had to say yes to all these things and all this. And he was just like, no, like you're feeding into this goal. And in hell, it damn it, it worked, you know.
Right.
But it was that same thing of just narrowing the focus. And Brene Brown talks about that too. She was speaking to, the story goes, she was speaking to a group of generals, and I think she was at the War College or somewhere, but basically like how do you prioritize, uh, something along those lines. And she said she really didn't get a great, from these generals, she really didn't get the best answer. And she said this one general, she asked this one general, and that general said, well, I list the 10 most important things, and then I pick three.
Mhm.
And and Brene Brown said, that general, she knew, like, it was the most simple, straightforward answer that she got from any of them that was effective. And it was, and again, I'm paraphrasing and probably butchered it, but it was, that general, she said, when she stood up and said, I take the 10, 10 most, important thing, I get it down to 10 and then three, and it's like,
Right.
okay, that's manageable. And it's like, here's a leader of, soldiers. And that she had this very simple way of, of breaking that down. And and again, it's simple, not easy, but it's just it. I think what it does, I'll speak for myself, but I think it's true for a lot of us. It gives me the it gives me the reason to say no
Right.
to other things, which is very challenging, for a lot of us, is the ability to say no. And then how we do it. And so that's been, kind of what I'm walking through now. And like, even with my mom, like my mom needs care, 24/7. And it's like, my brother is down there, like he's like, like a mile away or 2 miles away from my mom, and he's staying there. And my sisters, who are kind of semi-retired, are able to come, fly down, and they're able to stay there. And just like, my role is like, I'm taking care of the bills and doing the other things. And it's like, part of me is like, I should be doing more. And it's like, almost from a recovery point of view, I'm like, I need to also be able to let them, be of service, to my mom, and like, not not feel bad. And it's like I feel grateful that they're there and that she's connecting with them, because I've been down here, and but I've gotten to spend the majority of my life with my mom in Florida, and a lot of them haven't. So it's given them some time to to reconnect and that sort of thing. So again, that to your point a little bit, what you were saying is also that reframing,
Yeah.
is looking at those situations, and it's not toxic positivity, but it's that reframing of a situation just significantly helps. So I'm grateful that it's a skill, or it's something I've gotten a lot better at, as I've gotten older, is that
Well, those
reframing. Yeah.
negative emotions, boy, we're good at them.
Yeah.
Guilt, we're good at anger,
Yep.
nailed it, right?
Yep.
Like those self, just take out the beat the shit out of you stick and start wailing away
Yeah.
on you. We're good
Oh
at
yeah.
that one too, right? Like we have A
Right.
plus, 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 plus grades
Yeah.
in some of these skill sets. But what we're not good at is the positive skill sets. We don't have
Yeah.
as much practice at, like you said, grace and understanding and
Yeah.
knowing that if you're there and your brother's there, the conversation is going to be different with your mom
Yeah.
than if you weren't there. It's not a bad
Yeah.
thing. It just changes the mix, right?
Yep. Yeah.
And but it's hard to let go. It's hard to feel
Yeah.
vulnerable because it's a vulnerable feeling, and most of us haven't
Yeah.
learned how to sit with that, to learn to sit to
Yep.
be vulnerable and okay with it. That one's hard.
And yeah, and what's interesting too is this is not to try to be unique, and we talked about this a little bit before we came on, but is in the position and the stuff that I do get to do in the profession, around well-being and psychological safety, and and kind of understanding that taking care of this vessel, is vitally important for me to be able to practice veterinary medicine effectively, for me to be a good husband, to be a good dad, to be a good coworker, all those things, I have to do that. But what's interesting is, it's like being, I'll say a well-being champion. We just actually did a cohort of veterinary leaders, and that's what the moniker that we use is, a well-being champion. And they wear a heavier burden a little bit. It's a little heavier burden, and some of that comes from, I know this stuff, and then I should be doing more, or I shouldn't feel this way. And that's something that I'm grateful where I'm at now, because I did it 5 6 years ago. But like now I'm like, no, like, remember, you are a human being first, and then you are doing all these other ththings, ancillary to your journey as a human being. And so grief and pain and fear, and like, I I mean, I know I'll be okay, but for somebody who's, really gets excited about working out and doing that kind of thing, to tear my bicep and need a hip replacement, within months, is a little heavy. And it's like,
It's a little bit. It's a
but
little bit.
yeah, it's a little,
Yeah.
but it's like, I'm going to be like, I also realize that I've walked through stuff before, and it's not like I'm never going to be able to work out. I just have to change things a little bit, or slow down for a smidge, and that's what I've done. So I've just altered what I've been doing. I've been doing the right thing. My orthopedic surgeon, kind of funny, he he saw me for my recheck, and it was only about 10 minutes, something like that he saw me, and he must have told me 6 times not to lift, like not to work out. And I'm like, he's like, problem, he goes, you're a doctor and you're a gym rat, and he goes, you're like my you're like my worst nightmare patient. And I'm like, I swear on all that's holy, like, I am not gonna I will do what you say. Like, I do not want to prolong my healing time any longer than it needs to be. I will be a good patient. I will do everything, and I have stuck to that. I haven't done anything outside the limits. But anyhow, little ADHD side squirrel. But yeah.
So before we started, I was telling you I almost have a book ready to go to publish,
Yes. Yes.
right?
Yep.
Well, one of the things you triggered it, I wasn't really going to talk about this today, but you talked a little bit. One of my sections is about the invisible shoulds that we
Hmm.
have in
Yeah.
society. And
Yeah.
it's that
Yeah.
nagging,
Hmm.
invisible should that nobody has come up to you and said, this is what you should do. There's no authority,
Right.
there's nobody, you never took a test on it. But we have these invisible shoulds that we self-police ourselves with
Oh
and
yeah.
that come
Yeah.
up. And then we're like, but we should be doing this. And then
Yeah.
in the book, I'm like, who says? Who
Right.
says? Like, if
Yeah.
it's like somebody who said, well, you should stop at every stop sign, well, that's a law. That makes sense. There is something written down that you should stop at every
Hmm.
stop sign. Those aren't the ones I'm talking about. I'm the ones that we
Yeah.
manufacture, or like you said, us in wellness. We should be able to lift all these burdens and be superheroes and get through the day. And who says? Who says that?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Give ourselves permission to put down the invisible shoulds and just be human beings that are trying their
Yeah.
best on a given day.
Right.
Yeah. And recognizing them,
Yeah.
which you did. You're like, these are the shoulds. Well, should I? I don't know. Let's talk about
Yeah.
that.
Right.
Yeah. Because those trip us up all the time.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And there's one of my favorite cartoons. It's a like a like a little black and white like kind of pencil drawing, and it's all these people are like in a subway, we'll say, like
Okay.
one of those areas like where it's just tons of people, and there's this shared thought bubble, that comes up that
Right.
everybody's thinking, and they're like all these, and I'm gonna I don't think they cursed in it, but I'll throw it. But it's like all these people have their shit together, and I'm barely holding it together, and it's like, and everybody thinks that, like we all
Everybody.
see that external, the external view of what other people are going through, and not, we don't have that reality camera on somebody 24/7 or be able to hear our thoughts or anything like that, and we just assume that we're the only ones that are going through it, or we're the ones that can't handle it. And interestingly enough, that's the second tenet of self-compassion, is common humanity, is feeling and knowing that we've all been through these things, that as a human being, that what we're feeling or what we're walking through when it's tough is part of the human experience, and that you're not alone when you do that. And it's just, I love that that's a big part of it. The one
Yeah.
first is, self-kindness, kind of talk to yourself like you would, a dear friend. Don't talk badly about yourself. And then that second one, is that common humanity, and just understanding that we're all going to walk through this, at some point. We all make mistakes, or we all do these things. And so yeah.
Yeah, and to talk about it, like you're going to find out once you actually bring up the subject, people are going to be like, oh, yeah, I get
Oh
that.
yeah.
Right? Like
Mm-hmm.
fill in the whatever blank, whatever I get. But yeah, man, you too. Like,
Yeah.
like just like you started off, this since January, it seems like it's a heavy lift for a lot of
Yeah.
things. And you can't
Yeah.
necessarily, like, you actually have a list of reasons why it's heavy. But other people I've talked to, they're like, just daily life seems like a heavy
Yeah.
lift right
Yeah.
now. It just takes a little bit oomph in the tank just
Yeah.
to get through the day.
What's interesting is just, and so well, not minimizing it, but and not getting too far down the rabbit hole, but there are a lot of things going on in the world. There are a lot of other things that that we see. And one of the things that I see that's interesting is that it's we don't have a place to unload and unwind. It's like going, it was, home is your sanctuary, like try to, be able to be there and be quiet. And even being there, is, if we're going out of the work situation, and seeing patients or whatever it is that, that we do, and, treating animals, or dealing with clients, or working with clients, I shouldn't say dealing with clients. But then we come home, and it's still, you know, God forbid we turn the news on, or something
Don't do
like that.
that. That's bad.
Don't do
Yeah.
that. No, that's fine.
No.
I will say I've definitely gone back to listening to audiobooks, on my way to work, which has been great. So, just that's
Well,
that's
as
it.
I've told
And
you, I don't even have a TV because I'm like,
yeah,
I want to control what's in my home environment. I work
yeah.
out of my home,
Oh
so I
yeah.
control it. But,
Yeah.
then like you said, family, my daughter comes home from college or she's texting me all day and her days are heavy, like,
Yeah.
mom, this is going on. And I'm like, okay. And you weren't, I don't know if you were here, but they had a live shooter on campus or the potential.
Oh,
So
yeah.
they had a lockdown, right? And thankfully it wasn't. It was somebody who called in and
Right.
said they were coming. But thankfully the
Yeah.
college took it serious and flooded the
Right.
campus with
Yeah.
police.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
those are our days lately, are
Yeah.
things that
Oh yeah.
are bigger than, you know, hey mom, I saw a cute boy and he didn't smile back at me day
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
type
Yeah.
of deal, right?
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
So I think that's has really been for me. I mean, it is heavy. There are a lot of things, at once going on. And then I'm grateful that I don't think I don't think I've had these things negatively affect other too many other things in my life because I've taken some step like knowing, okay, this is like you just need to offload some things, or letting friends know, hey, like if I don't text you, but like please just know, like in this period, like I'm thinking of you, I love you, but I'm not great at answering emails and doing and texting right now. And I think it's just interesting. Like it's because I'm a 10 out of 10 extrovert. And I'm wary of being isolated, but it's just different. It's just focusing the energy is like understanding like I've got a limited amount of energy that I can give, out into the world. And for now, like I've just got to turn that dial back. So yeah.
Well, we can wrap up here on
Yeah.
people saying
Yeah.
there's two sayings, right? Put on your mask before you put on anybody else's mask.
Right. Right. Yep.
Right? Or when I was training as a lifeguard, they're like, make sure not to go down with the person you're saving.
Right.
Like, make sure
Mm-hmm.
you're in a place of stability so you can save them, or you're both going to drown, basically. That,
Yeah.
that kind of sticks with a person. It's both those concepts of is what are your priorities? So if you're hearing this and you're feeling like life is heavy, maybe you just take a moment 10, 15 moments, 15 minutes, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And, like Phil and I are saying, he's done it. I've done it in the past. Or what are your priorities? And normal,
Yeah.
you know, narrow it down to the top three. And that will not be the same for every person.
Yeah.
So Phil and I chose ours for what it was for us. And then I think too, besides that, Phil, I think you gave yourself some grace by notifying people where you're at, because if you didn't, they'd all be starting to panic. Where's Phil? And then that just
Yeah.
adds to your burden, that adds to the
Yeah.
list, right?
Yeah.
Would you add any other self-care tips on there during heavy times for people?
I think it's really that is the giving yourself some grace. And then one of the things I think is really important. And so when it comes to resilience, this overarching term of self-care and stuff, but is that the number one most impactful thing we can do is ask for help when we need it.
Mhm.
And I'll say this is when I first got sober, my sponsor was or it was a veterinary internist, and he was like, I want you to call me every day, tell me what's going on, just doesn't matter when. He goes, if you're feeling squirrely, whatever, just give me a call. And it was during the work day, like I knew he was at work, and I wasn't at work then. and I didn't call him, and I was like, well, I didn't call you because I know what you do for, for a living, and I thought you'd be busy. And he goes, I need you to do something for me. He goes, don't ever make that decision for me. And he goes, let me explain it to you this way. He said, I may be going through something that you calling me and me being able to be of service to you and helping, spiritually, like helping another human being may be what I need in that moment. And he goes, please don't hold back the opportunity for me to do that. And when I looked at, and it's that free reframing we were talking about, and it's like, I think about that with my friends as, as like the people I care about, is that I know that they look at that as an opportunity to, be there for somebody that they love. And they know, and I mean, I know I would do the same thing for them, but it's like, we're as human beings, but certainly veterinary professionals are, really like this. We're so quick to offer help to others, but I don't want to bother somebody, or I don't want to, I don't think I should really, and then there's the shoulds, I should be able to take care of this on my own and what have you. So just, you don't have to dump everything, but just letting the people in your circle know, what's going on and that you may need some help. And I think that's one of the best things you can do too for self-care. And just, and like you said, I think that narrowing down, paring down the list of what's important, and just saying, what, like laundry, certain things, if it doesn't get done, like it's just not going to get done
It's
right
not going to
now.
get done, and that's
Yeah, it's just
okay.
not going to get done. Yeah, right.
And it's okay. You'll get to it
Yeah,
eventually. Eventually, you're going to need clean underwear, so you'll get there.
yeah, right, right.
Or you'll go buy
Yep.
a new pack, but it'll get sold.
Or that. Yeah,
Yeah,
one way or another. One
one
way or
way or
another.
the
Yeah,
other, there will be a solution. So,
yeah.
so we're here
So,
to help you through this messaging. Take care of
yep.
yourselves out there and know that you got this. Yeah.
And the last thing I'll say is, it reminds me, I read this Ram Dass quote, and essentially it was, in the end, we're all just walking each other home. And and just I was in the moment where a number of my friends in recovery, veterinary professionals in recovery, were like reaching out to me, and I just felt that, it's like we're all just trying to get through this life, and we're there together, and we all have the same end. We're all, at some point, we're all going to leave this earth, and it's like, can we all just help each other, help walk each other home? And I just really like that. So
I really like that. Thank you. That's a
yeah,
great saying.
yeah,
Now I'm going to
yeah,
cherish that today. So thank you for
yeah,
sharing that.
yeah,
And
yeah.
on that note, we will see all you again at the next Unfiltered Vet discussions. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, everybody.